Durham's county manager has resigned. We are looking into why and how much money she made after being on paid leave for the last 6 weeks.
The trial of a Sampson County deputy shot in the line of duty ends in a hung jury. What do you think the doubt was here? Will the district attorney retry the case?
We're approaching record heat for Halloween. I've got your hour-by-hour trick-or-treating forecast. Plus, you and your kids will need a flashlight as you head out. I'll explain why.
2 updates tonight on 2 chases through Wake County. On your left, video of today's chase that ended in Zebulon. On your right, video of last week's chase that ended in Garner. Thank you for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty.
And I'm Ashley Rowe. We have new information on both chases tonight. WRAL's Brian Schrader will update us on an arrest in the chase out of Garner. But let's start with WRAL's Willie Danley with an update on today's chase in Zebulon. Willie, we just found out what started it.
Yes, Ashley, I just got done speaking to State Highway Patrol within the last 10 minutes. They told me that this driver was clocked going 97 miles an hour in a 70-mile-an-hour zone. Take a look at this video. This is how this chase ended. We're told by State Highway Patrol that the driver of that car got up to speeds as high as 129 miles an hour. State Highway Patrol had to use a pit maneuver to stop the suspect. When they were able to stop that car, troopers did draw their guns and were able to get Adrian McCormick, that's the driver of the car, out of that vehicle without incident. State Highway Patrol tell us that he is now facing 8 different charges, including felony fleeing, aggressive driving, and felony hit and run. We're still working to learn more information about why that suspect didn't stop in the first place. We're going to get those answers and keep you updated with what we find out.
All right, Willie, thank you. Now let's send it over to Brian Schrader in the WRAL Live Center with the update on that chase out of Garner.
Indeed. Wake County deputies say they have captured a driver who got away after a chase last week. You remember we reported this during our 7 o'clock news last Thursday. They were trying to pull over a car for speeding on NC 540 in Garner, that new section of 540. Person didn't stop, and then the chase ended with a crash at the I-40 interchange, and they say the driver got away. Well, today they say they arrested Devontae Watkins. He's now facing charges of felony, speeding to elude, and resisting a public officer.
Brian, thank you so much. Let's talk about this weather, especially as we get into Halloween. A lot of people getting ready to head out and go trick-or-treating. Meteorologist Kat Campbell in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. No umbrellas, no coats needed this year, Kat.
The one thing that kids are going to need is a flashlight. And the reason why, we've got a new moon Halloween night into November 1st, and that means you're just not going to have any moonlight to brighten things up. So make sure you've got the flashlight on hand. But check out these numbers. We're talking trick-or-treating temperatures in the 70s for much of the evening. By 9 o'clock, it is still 67 degrees outside. It's partly cloudy, it's dry, it's beautiful. Town by town, though, let's take a look at your high temperatures on Halloween afternoon. Highs are going to be right around 80 degrees in the Triangle, 83 in Fayetteville, 80 in Rocky Mount and Southern Pines, and 77 in Roxborough. This is a treat. Here's the trick with your Halloween forecast. We're keeping an eye on the tropics, and I'm noticing a new trend on some models that just came in. The American model trending a bit closer to the European. I'll have a closer look at what that could mean coming up.
All right, Kat. After nearly 2 months of paid administrative leave and questions surrounding why, Durham's county manager resigned. Kimberly Sowell was the county's highest paid employee. WRAL's Monica Casey shows us there are more questions than answers around what happened in that top job.
Durham County commissioners say they cannot comment on a personnel matter, and the county won't say why Sowell resigned. But sources tell WRAL there are allegations of wrongdoing at play here.
Kimberly Sowell started her role in Durham in March of 2022, making $255,000. On top of that, her contract shows she was given a vehicle allowance of $7,200 a year. And in an addendum, she received a housing allowance of $2,000 per month.
The board is met in closed session, and I'll now entertain a motion to accept the resignation of County Manager Dr. Kimberly Sowell effective immediately.
Her resignation means acting county manager Claudia Hager will take over as interim. I have reached out to the county asking why Sowell resigned, if there are any internal investigations, what severance she's been paid, if any, how much money she was paid during her leave, and what the timeline is for hiring a new county manager. Multiple sources tell us Sowell's previous leave that started in September is related to allegations from county staff of retaliation after they raised concerns about a potential conflict of interest related to vendor selection for the county. In Durham, Monica Casey, WRAL News.
And so far, Durham has not answered any of those questions.
So, have you been getting our breaking news alerts on your phone? It's been a really busy day. We do want to get you caught up on the 5 things that you need to know right now. A warehouse at a peanut plant caught fire in Northampton County. This is at Hampton Farms in Garysburg. 10 departments from North Carolina and Virginia had to respond to this. Firefighters were there for several hours. Still no word on what started this fire or if anyone was hurt, but that is a big building. Another violent situation at the downtown Raleigh bus station today on South Blunt Street. A man was seriously hurt after being stabbed there. It happened around 1 p.m. Raleigh police say a suspect is in custody and they're investigating what led up to that fight and incident. FBI agents spent several hours searching a home in Garner this morning. They were in the Hunter's Mark subdivision. That's on Hay River Street. They also searched a car in the driveway and towed away a pickup truck. WRAL spoke to a man who came out of that house. He said they were searching for transactions related to an auto repair shop that he co-owns.
Extra law enforcement and school security will be at Broughton High School tomorrow in Raleigh. The school was on code red lockdown for about 45 minutes today. Someone reported a student had a gun on campus. Authorities searched the school, did not find the gun. Raleigh police tell us a student was detained, though, although police wouldn't say how they're connected to what happened. And today marks exactly 1 week to Election Day. Millions have already cast a ballot in North Carolina. So far, more than 3.1 million people have voted early statewide. Early voting ends this Saturday at 3 p.m.
The trial involving the shooting of a Sampson County Sheriff's deputy has ended now in a hung jury. Deputy Caitlin Emanuel was shot several times back in 2022 while struggling with a man after responding to a vehicle theft call near Roseboro. WRAL's Gilbert Bays talked with the sheriff and the district attorney about what's next in this case.
The trial ended Friday here at the Sampson County Courthouse with a hung jury. And while Caitlin Emanuel can't speak about what happened in the courtroom, the sheriff has an awful lot to say.
Was not an exit wound. And then with my foot.
For the past 2 years, Sampson County Sheriff's Deputy Caitlin Emanuel has fought through multiple surgeries and countless hours of rehab to get back on the force. On Friday, a jury was deadlocked over whether Michael Walthall, the man accused of shooting her, was guilty of assault on a law enforcement officer with intent to kill.
All juries, are instructed by the judge that they've got to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And there's got to be that element of intent.
Well, what do you think the doubt was here?
I can't answer that. I don't really know.
The shooting happened outside of Roseboro. Emanuel was responding to a report of a stolen vehicle when authorities say Walthall jumped out of the woods and started strangling her. The deputy's gun went off several times. The jury was deadlocked at 11-1 on 3 out of the 5 felony charges. Walthall was found guilty of assault by strangulation and larceny of a firearm. It's not the outcome District Attorney Ernie Lee had expected.
I've tried a bunch of cases in my career, over 230-some trials, so I know that anything can happen in a trial, but I was still surprised by this based upon the strength of case.
The sheriff says Emanuel took the stand and gave emotional testimony. It's something she might have to do again. Right now, Walthall remains locked up in the Sampson County Detention Center awaiting sentencing on the lesser charges. In Sampson County, Gilbert Bays, WRAL News.
So the district attorney says that he plans to meet with the 2 attorneys who tried this case. They're going to determine if they'll go back into the court on some more serious charges that weren't decided in the recent case.
Our latest WRAL poll just came out this morning, and it finds the race for the White House is a dead heat in North Carolina. So what are these candidates going to do about it? This week, we hear from the people in charge, the heads of the Democratic and Republican parties. Tonight, the Democrats.
There's a lot of energy right now, and I think you see a record turnout so far across North Carolina, but it's going to be close.
What's next for the DNC with 1 week to Election Day? Take a look at this. Our latest WRAL News poll shows the presidential election in North Carolina is a tie. Kamala Harris, 47%. Donald Trump, 47%. You got to factor in, of course, the margin of error as well. This week, we are hearing from the DNC and the RNC asking their leaders what they must do to win our state's 16 electoral college votes. We begin tonight with the Democrats and the chair of the DNC, Jamie Harrison. Jamie Harrison, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Turnout in North Carolina cities, Charlotte specifically, really wasn't as high as Democrats had hoped in recent elections. What are Democrats doing differently in that area this year that might produce a better result?
Well, I was just at a rally in Charlotte with the mayor pro tem, and she is very pleased with the turnout so far in terms of Democratic performance. And that's partly because we have built a ground operation that's been on the ground here in North Carolina for well over a year. And we have a dynamic new party chair, really has been focusing on organizing. And I think all of those efforts with investments from the National Party, investments from the Harris campaign, have really led to a very strong operation. We have 29 offices across the state of North Carolina. We're more than 340 staffers that are here on the ground, and that number continues to grow. And I believe that operation will get us over the finish line and to make sure we're victorious on November 5th.
All right. The vice president had a lot of momentum when she became the official candidate for president. Since then, her numbers have waned a bit. Many polls are really putting this at a dead heat, or even with Harris slightly behind. Is there a way to energize the base again now that early voting is taking place?
Well, I think the base is energized. I've been doing a number of things across the state of North Carolina, here in Charlotte, but also eastern North Carolina and some of the rural counties. And I can tell you folks are fired up. There's a lot of energy right now, and I think you see a record turnout so far across North Carolina, but it's going to be close. This is a close election. And in close elections, ground operations are really key and important. And I believe that we have a better one on the Democratic side.
Jamie, you mentioned rural counties. Democrats have really ignored rural counties. Even our state party chair has talked about this over the last 20 years. We've seen the voter registration numbers really reflect that. What do you say to rural voters who may be on the fence for who to vote for?
Well, listen, I consider myself a dirt road Democrat. I grew up off of a dirt road in South Carolina. So I know about the issues that impact rural communities that are unique to rural communities. And if you stack up the deck, stack up what Donald Trump did for rural communities compared to what the Biden-Harris administration had done for rural communities, and it doesn't compare. Right now, we're seeing broadband come into rural communities. That didn't happen under Donald Trump. He said that he wanted an infrastructure week every week and never filled a pothole. But right now, we got broadband going into rural North Carolina because of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Democrats in the House and Senate. The infrastructure that we are seeing, new pipes, tearing out those old lead pipes, putting down new roads, getting rid of these bridges that are falling apart. All of that happened because of Democrats. And so some of the new opportunities for farmers that are now putting out solar panels and creating other uses for their farms, bringing in more money, sustaining family farms. That didn't happen under Donald Trump. It's happening because of Democrats and Democratic policies.
Let's talk about young voters here for a minute. We're hearing about the Democrats losing some of them to Jill Stein, the Libertarian candidate who criticizes the Harris campaign for not being more vocal about the war in Gaza. Is your party concerned that this defection, no matter what the size is, no matter how small it might be, could have an impact on the election that will come down to a very small margin of votes?
Well, in the end, we have heard that Donald Trump is a big fan of Jill Stein because he feels as though she takes votes from Democrats. For the first time, Democrats are running ads about Jill Stein's campaign. We saw the impact that she had in 2016 and how right now women in this country don't have in many states, the right to control their own bodies. That's because Donald Trump was elected president. And that's because Jill Stein helped in that effort. But I know that the American people and young people don't want that. They have made progress over these last few years because of their vote in 2020, because of their continued vote in 2022. And I believe that young people will once again stand up with Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party.
Last question for you. You've got a website on some signs there behind you, iwillvote.com. What's that all about?
If you run into any issues with voting, we as a party believe that all of Americans, regardless of your party affiliation, should be able to exercise your right and go vote if you're a registered voter. So if you run into any problems, go to iwillvote.com. We have a hotline set up where lawyers are on the ready to make sure that you get all of the guidance and the help you need in order to cast your ballot.
Jamie Harrison, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, there you have it. So next, we hear from the Republicans, RNC Chair Michael Whatley. That's tomorrow night, right here on WRAL News at 7 o'clock.
All right, Ashley, thank you so much. Meteorologist Kat Campbell joining us now. Technically, hurricane season goes until end of November?
Yep, November 30th is when hurricane season ends. And so we're not done yet.
No.
The back half of hurricane season has been exceptionally busy, as you know, at home this year. And I'm noticing a new trend on the model runs coming in tonight. The American model just finished up the latest run about an hour ago. So I wanted to start with this because this is something new. The system still has a 40% chance of developing. But here's what the European model ensembles have been showing, and the American starting to trend this direction, even with some of the ensembles from the American model earlier today. So I'm starting this Friday at 7 o'clock. The chance of a tropical depression forming in this region, about 40% at that point in time. As we move into early next week, it drifts to the north a little bit, and the chance of a tropical depression developing goes up to about 70% early next week. Now notice the European model ensembles then have it kind of getting blocked by high pressure and steer it to the northwest. And that's the new trend here that we've seen on the latest run of the American model. And that's concerning because we'll have to keep an eye on potential impacts for Mexico, Cuba, and then we'll have to watch the Gulf of Mexico eventually. This is still next week and the end of next week, so we've got a lot of time to track it. Outside tonight, all is quiet in North Hills. It's partly cloudy, and it's warming up this week. 79 tomorrow, 80 on Halloween, and for Friday, 81. These aren't near record numbers necessarily. Halloween would be the closest. As you look ahead to Friday, though, keep in mind that record high of 88 is on November 1st. That was back in 1950 at RDU. Hour by hour, here's a look at your Halloween planner. 60 degrees at 8 a.m. By noon, 72, warming up to 80 during the afternoon. And then dinner time temperatures, trick-or-treating temperatures will still be in the 70s for many. 67 degrees in Raleigh right now, 79 in Chicago, 85 in Dallas. High pressure that's bringing this warm weather is going to shift closer to us, and that's why we warm up in the days ahead. But there's an expiration, a brief one. We've got a cold front on the way for the weekend. That'll move through Friday night and early Saturday, bringing a small chance for rain with it. The cooler air starts to arrive Saturday, and we're back in the 40s again. By Sunday morning, it's going to be cooling down. Check out these numbers. Upper 60s Saturday, low 70s on Sunday. Up until then, you've got 3 days in a row with high temperatures right around 80 degrees. Over the next 3 days, it's going to be warm, and then our temperatures will begin to fall as we get into the weekend, but that is not going to last long at all. Temperatures are likely to rebound into the 70s. The good news is it looks great for Election Day. Nearly 80 degrees, mostly sunny. I don't think that's going to stop folks from voting.
No, sounds good. Kat, thank you. We do want you to stick around, though, because we have one more thing to talk about.
Yeah, we want to know if we're going to be able to see the zombie star this week, and we also want to know what that is. So that's our one last thing after the break.
One last thing to talk about tonight, something special in the night sky on Halloween, something that happens every 80 years or so. It's called a zombie star.
Yes, Kat, you talked to NASA Ambassador Tony Rice about this. Let's play a clip from that.
We have something spooky to talk about. So there are talks of what's being called a zombie star. Can you explain how this could be coming back to life?
So it's actually two stars. It's a pair of stars. One is a red giant, and that's a star that's near the end of its life, and it's grown really, really big. Our own sun will be there in about 5 billion years, so you don't have to worry. But its companion star is a long dead one. That's called a white dwarf. It's really, really dense, and that white dwarf, about every 80 years, explodes. What happens is it's drawing off all that stellar material over that time. That just builds up until it's too much, and then it's going to explode into what looks like a new star in the sky for a couple of days.
We have that whole interview, by the way, on WRAL.com. If I'm understanding this correctly, the remains of a dead star come back to life, hence zombie star.
Oh yeah, and it like eats the energy out of a living star to do that. Ooh. So really adding to the zombie factor.
It's really incredible. It's fascinating. It's happening on Halloween, which adds to it. Will we be able to see it?
We don't know exactly when this is going to happen. Once it happens, you'll be able to see it with the naked eye. If you look to the west, it's going to be in between Venus and then two bright stars kind of forming a triangle around it. It'll be something cool to see, kind of a brightness in the sky. It'll be visible for a couple of days, and then it will fade away and die. So this is a nova, not a supernova event, technically, but lots to see in the sky over the past month. This is just adding to the list.
No kidding.
Fascinating.
Really
Regular
is.
old nova, but I think we'll enjoy it nonetheless. Thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.